Have you ever wondered how the passing years transform not just our appearance, but the very way we see life itself? As we journey into our golden years, we face truths that challenge everything we once believed about family, happiness, and our own worth. Today, I'm sharing 7 brutally honest pieces of advice for navigating your senior years with dignity and inner peace. These aren't comfortable platitudes. They're powerful insights that could completely transform how you experience this stage of life. Why should you stay until the end? Because each tip has the potential to free you from relationships that drain you, expectations that weigh you down, and regrets that steal your joy. You'll discover how to protect yourself from manipulation, prioritize your own happiness without guilt, and embrace the wisdom that can only come with decades of living. If you want to spend your remaining years with purpose instead of regret, with genuine joy instead of quiet resignation, this video might be exactly what you've been searching for. If you find value in what you're about to hear, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support helps me continue creating content that matters. If this video resonates with you, a simple like or share could help someone else who needs these exact words today. Are these insights connecting with you? Type yes in the comments if you're finding them helpful. If they're not quite hitting the mark, type a no so I can create better content for you next time. Now, let's dive into the first life-changing insight. Tip number 1. Be cautious about who you allow into your inner circle. As we grow older, our need for meaningful connection often becomes more profound. The silence of an empty home, the loss of loved ones, the distance from busy family members. These experiences can create a longing for companionship that sometimes makes us vulnerable. This vulnerability, paired with the kindness and empathy many develop with age, creates the perfect conditions for those with questionable motives to enter our lives. You've likely encountered them. People who appear precisely when you're feeling most alone, offering exactly what you're missing, whether it's attention, assistance, or understanding. Have you noticed how certain individuals seem to have a sixth sense for detecting when you're feeling isolated or going through difficult times? They arrive with perfect timing, full of concern and helpfulness. But when your circumstances improve, they mysteriously become less available, only to reappear during your next period of vulnerability. This isn't coincidence. Some people instinctively recognize vulnerability the way a hunter spots tracks in the forest. They can sense exactly when you might be most receptive to their influence, when grief, financial worry, or loneliness has temporarily lowered your natural defenses. Perhaps you've experienced someone showing extraordinary interest in your well-being when you were recently widowed, facing health challenges, or feeling isolated from family. Their attention felt like a blessing at first, only for you to gradually realize their support came with expectations, requests for loans, increasing demands on your time, or emotional exchanges that left you feeling drained rather than uplifted. This doesn't mean becoming suspicious of everyone or closing yourself off from new connections. That approach would only deepen the isolation that makes us vulnerable in the first place. Instead, it's about developing what I call thoughtful openness, welcoming people into your life while carefully observing patterns in their behavior over time. The wisdom you've gathered through decades of living equips you perfectly for this discernment. You've seen enough of human nature to recognize inconsistencies, to notice when someone's actions don't align with their words, to sense when interest seems disproportionate to the relationship's history. True connection reveals itself through consistency and reciprocity. Genuine friends remain present during both your struggles and your moments of strength. They give as well as receive. They respect your boundaries rather than pushing against them. Their presence adds energy to your life rather than depleting it. If you've noticed someone who only seems interested when you're vulnerable, drop a 1 in the comments. Your observation might help someone else recognize a similar pattern in their own relationships. Remember, guarding your trust isn't selfish, it's essential self-care. Being selective about who earns access to your inner world doesn't diminish your capacity for compassion. It ensures that the connections you nurture are authentic and mutually beneficial. Imagine looking back on these years with gratitude not for how many people surrounded you, but for the quality of those relationships, for connections built on genuine respect, shared values, and true care for your well-being. That richness comes from carefully choosing who earns a place in your life, not from opening your door to everyone who knocks. Tip number 2. Stop living solely to please your family. This might feel uncomfortable to hear. It might even trigger a sense of guilt or resistance. But I need you to consider this truth. Constantly prioritizing everyone else's happiness while neglecting your own isn't nobility. It's a pattern that ultimately serves no one, including those you love most. Think about the countless times you've set aside your own needs, preferences, and dreams to accommodate family expectations. Perhaps you've canceled plans you were looking forward to because a grandchild needed last-minute babysitting. Maybe you've loaned money you couldn't really spare because a relative was in a tight spot. Or possibly you've remained silent about mistreatment because keeping the peace seemed more important than speaking your truth. The painful reality is that when we consistently place ourselves last, we establish a pattern that becomes increasingly difficult to break. What begins as occasional sacrifices gradually transforms into expected behavior. The more you give, the more others assume your resources, your time, energy, finances, and emotional bandwidth are always available to them. Have you noticed how some family members seem surprised or even offended when you occasionally prioritize yourself? How your no is often met with confusion or pressure to change your mind. This reaction reveals just how accustomed they've become to your self-sacrifice. After decades of putting everyone else first, you deserve to ask yourself, what do I want from these remaining years? What brings me joy? What dreams have I deferred that might still be possible? What aspects of myself have remained unexplored because I've been too busy meeting others' needs? Breaking this pattern isn't about abandoning your loved ones. It's about finding a healthier balance, one that includes your needs alongside theirs. It's about recognizing that your happiness matters just as much as everyone else's, and that you've earned the right to prioritize yourself after years of putting others first. If you've ever felt guilty for wanting something for yourself, type 2 in the comments. Let's acknowledge together that your desires matter. The most loving families adjust when boundaries change. They may initially resist, having grown comfortable with your constant availability, but they adapt because they truly care about your well-being. If certain family members continue demanding your sacrifice while giving little in return, that reveals something important about the nature of those relationships, something you deserve to see clearly. Can you imagine what it would feel like to wake up tomorrow and ask yourself, what would bring me joy today? And then actually pursue that without guilt? The freedom in that simple shift can be transformative. You've given enough. You've sacrificed enough. Your remaining years should be lived according to your own values and desires, not just everyone else's expectations. This isn't selfish. It's essential self-care after a lifetime of caring for others. Tip number 3. Remove toxic people from your life, even family members. From childhood, we're taught that family relationships are sacred and permanent. The idea that we might need to distance ourselves from certain relatives feels almost taboo, challenging deeply held beliefs about loyalty and obligation. But what happens when those relationships consistently undermine your well-being? Let's address what many hesitate to acknowledge. Sharing genetic material with someone doesn't give them the right to treat you disrespectfully, to manipulate your emotions, or to drain your energy. Yet how many of us endure exactly this kind of treatment because they're family or that's just how they are? Consider certain relationships in your family circle. Are there individuals whose calls make your stomach tighten with anxiety? Relatives whose criticism leaves you feeling diminished? Family members whose visits require days of emotional recovery afterward? These reactions aren't random. They're your body and mind signaling that something in these dynamics is harmful to your well-being. When we're younger, we often tolerate difficult relationships because we believe there's time for healing, for growth, for things to finally change. But wisdom comes with age, including the sobering recognition that some people will never change, that some dynamics are permanently established, that some relationships will never become what we hoped they would be. Imagine this scenario: an adult child who contacts you only when they need financial assistance, but is consistently unavailable when you need emotional support. Or perhaps a sibling who still treats you as the person you were decades ago, refusing to acknowledge your growth or accomplishments. Maybe even a spouse who, after years together, has become controlling, critical, or emotionally absent. These situations hurt deeply because they involve people who should be your strongest supporters. The betrayal of that expectation creates a unique kind of pain, one that repeats with each interaction, gradually eroding your sense of worth and peace. Society often suggests that maintaining these relationships regardless of their impact on you is somehow virtuous, that walking away makes you selfish or unloving. But here's the truth rarely acknowledged. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do, both for yourself and ultimately for the other person, is to create distance. As you enter your later years, your mental and emotional well-being becomes increasingly precious. The stress of toxic relationships doesn't just diminish your joy. Research shows it can literally impact your physical health, weakening your immune system, disrupting your sleep, and even contributing to cardiovascular problems. Is maintaining a harmful relationship really worth that price? Imagine what might shift in your life if you redirected the energy currently spent managing difficult family dynamics. What if instead of bracing yourself for the next hurtful comment or manipulative request, you could focus on relationships that genuinely nurture and uplift you? How might your daily experience change if you weren't constantly recovering from interactions that leave you feeling diminished? Setting boundaries with toxic family members isn't about punishment or revenge. It's about protection, creating the space you need to thrive, to experience peace, to live with dignity. Sometimes this means limiting contact. Sometimes it means changing how you engage. And yes, sometimes it means walking away entirely. If you're struggling with a toxic family relationship, type 3 in the comments. No need to share details. Just know you're not alone, and your pain is seen. Remember this. At this stage of life, every single day is precious. You deserve to spend those days with people who value you, who respect your boundaries, who contribute positively to your life. Family ties should enrich your experience, not diminish it. Creating distance doesn't mean you've failed at family. It means you're finally succeeding at self-respect. It means you understand that love, real love, never requires you to tolerate mistreatment or disrespect. Your peace matters. Your dignity matters. Your happiness matters. And sometimes protecting those things means making the difficult choice to step back from relationships that repeatedly undermine them, even when those relationships are with family. Tip number 4. Release the expectation that others will recognize your sacrifices. Take a moment to reflect on your life's journey. All the times you've put someone else's needs before your own. Maybe you postponed dreams, adjusted career paths, or made countless small sacrifices that accumulated over decades. Perhaps you've spent years caring for aging parents, supporting children through challenges, or being the rock that everyone leans on during difficult times. Through it all, there was perhaps a quiet hope lingering in your heart. Someday, they'll see what I've done. Someday, they'll truly understand and appreciate the sacrifices I've made. But here's the uncomfortable truth that many of us struggle to accept. That moment of recognition, that deeply desired acknowledgement, may never come. Not because your sacrifices weren't real or significant. Not because the people in your life don't care. But because most people simply lack the perspective to truly comprehend sacrifices they haven't personally made. Think about the nights you lay awake worrying about others while they slept peacefully, unaware of your concern. Remember the opportunities you quietly declined so you could be available for someone else's needs. Consider the dreams you gently set aside, telling yourself, maybe someday, while you helped others pursue their immediate goals. How many of these moments remained invisible to those who benefited from them? How often has the depth of your giving gone unrecognized? Not because others are intentionally ungrateful, but because they simply couldn't see what they weren't looking for. This lack of recognition can leave a unique kind of wound, one that deepens with time as you continue giving without acknowledgement. The disappointment gradually transforms into something heavier, something that can color your relationships and steal your joy. Resentment. You might find yourself mentally cataloging all you've done, all you've given, feeling the growing weight of unappreciated efforts. This resentment doesn't just hurt your relationships, it hurts you, binding you to past hurts and preventing you from fully enjoying your present life. But there is another way forward, a path toward greater peace and freedom, releasing the expectation of recognition altogether. Imagine for a moment what might shift if you no longer needed others to acknowledge your sacrifices to feel they were worthwhile. What if the value of your giving was determined solely by you, by your knowledge of what you've contributed, by your understanding of your own heart's generosity? This shift isn't about diminishing what you've given. It's about reclaiming the power to define its worth. It's about understanding that while recognition feels good, making it a condition for your peace means placing your happiness in someone else's hands. The most liberating truth might be this: your sacrifices have always mattered, regardless of whether anyone else recognized them. The love you've shown, the support you've offered, the kindness you've extended, these things have value inherent in themselves, not dependent on external validation. Type 4 in the comments if you're ready to let go of waiting for others to acknowledge your worth. By choosing to let go of the need for recognition, you free yourself from the cycle of giving and waiting, sacrificing and resenting. You reclaim your power to determine what matters, to decide what was worthwhile, to define the meaning of your own actions. This doesn't mean you stop giving or caring. It simply means you give from a place of freedom rather than expectation, from genuine choice rather than obligation. And paradoxically, when you release the need for acknowledgement, you often find greater joy in your giving than ever before. Your life's value has never been determined by others' recognition. It's always been found in the integrity of your choices, the authenticity of your care, and the genuine love you've shown, whether anyone else ever fully comprehends it or not. Tip number 5. Your age is no excuse to stop growing and changing. I'm too old to change. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. At my age, this is just how I am. Have you caught yourself saying these words? Or perhaps heard them from friends or family members? These phrases have become so common, so accepted, that we rarely question the profound limitation they place on our lives. But what if I told you that this belief, that age somehow makes us incapable of significant growth or change, is one of the most damaging myths about aging? What if this single misconception is robbing countless older adults of their most expansive, authentic years? The truth is, as long as you're breathing, you retain the capacity to evolve, to learn, to transform aspects of yourself that no longer serve you. Your brain continues to form new connections throughout your entire life. Your personality isn't set in concrete. Your habits, perspectives, and relationships remain malleable if you believe they can change. Consider the opportunities you might have dismissed simply because you told yourself, "I'm too old for that." The hobby you never pursued. The relationship pattern you never addressed. The dream you abandoned not because it was impossible, but because you believed the time for such adventures had passed. What most fail to recognize is that age can actually be your greatest advantage when it comes to personal growth. You possess something now that your younger self could only dream of: deep self-knowledge, decades of experience, and the wisdom to recognize what truly matters. Think about it. You've navigated life's complexities for decades. You've weathered disappointments, celebrated triumphs, and learned from countless mistakes. This rich tapestry of experience equips you to approach change with unprecedented skill and insight. When a 30-year-old attempts to break a habit or develop a new skill, they're often operating from theoretical knowledge. But when you decide to change at 70 or 80, you bring a lifetime of practical wisdom to the process. You know yourself, your triggers, your patterns, your strengths. This self-awareness is invaluable currency in the economy of personal transformation. If you've fallen into the trap of using age as a barrier, ask yourself, what would become possible if I viewed my years not as a limitation, but as a foundation? How might my approach to life shift if I saw each decade not as moving closer to an end, but as adding another layer of strength to build upon? Imagine what you could still become if you embrace the reality that transformation remains possible throughout your entire life. Perhaps you could finally heal that relationship that's been broken for decades. Maybe you could develop the creative talent you've always suspected lay dormant within you. You might even completely reinvent how you approach your daily life, finding fresh joy in routines that had grown stale. Type 5 in the comments if you believe that age should never limit our capacity for change. The most inspiring examples of human potential aren't found in those who peaked early, but in those who continued evolving throughout their entire lives. History is filled with individuals who created their most significant work, made their most important discoveries, or experienced their greatest joy in what society would consider old age. Grandma Moses began painting at 78 and produced over 1,500 paintings after that point. Frank Lloyd Wright designed the Guggenheim Museum at 91. Laura Ingalls Wilder published her first book at 65. Their stories remind us that creative expression, intellectual growth, and meaningful contribution remain possible at every stage of life. The truth is, the only real barrier to transformation isn't your age. It's the belief that your age makes change impossible. Once you recognize that limitation exists primarily in your mind, not in your body or circumstances, entire worlds of possibility open before you. You are not simply the sum of what you've been. You are also the potential of what you might still become. Each day offers a new opportunity to shift, to grow, to explore dimensions of yourself that may have remained dormant until now. So rather than allowing age to define what's possible for you, let it inform your growth with the wisdom you've earned through living. Use every year you've experienced not as a weight that holds you back, but as the solid ground from which you can launch into new possibilities. Because as long as you're here, as long as you're breathing, you remain unfinished, beautifully, hopefully, wonderfully unfinished. And that continuing story, with all its potential for transformation, may contain some of your life's most meaningful chapters. Tip number 6. Stop allowing the past to overshadow your present. As the years accumulate, our collection of memories grows richer, more complex, and often more emotionally charged. The human mind has a remarkable capacity for remembering, for revisiting moments of joy, achievement, and connection. But this same ability can sometimes become a trap, especially as we age. How often do you catch yourself beginning sentences with "back when things were better" or "in my day"? How frequently do your thoughts drift to earlier chapters of your life, comparing them favorably to your current circumstances? There's a certain comfort in reminiscing about the past. Those memories can provide a sense of identity, of continuity in a world that seems to change ever more rapidly. They remind us of who we've been and what we've accomplished. And certainly, honoring our history and cherishing meaningful memories enriches our lives. But there's a crucial difference between occasionally revisiting the past with appreciation and becoming a permanent resident there. When nostalgia transforms from occasional visitor to constant companion, it creates a subtle but significant barrier between you and your present life. The danger lies in believing that your best experiences, your most meaningful contributions, and your greatest joys all exist exclusively in the rearview mirror. This perspective doesn't just diminish your present, it actively prevents you from fully engaging with the life that's unfolding right before you. Consider what happens when you constantly compare today's experiences with idealized memories of the past. New relationships struggle to develop depth because they're measured against those you've lost. Current experiences feel somehow less vibrant because they're filtered through the lens of how things used to be. Potential sources of joy go unnoticed because you're looking backward instead of being present. This backward focus creates a peculiar kind of grief, mourning not just for what's gone, but for what you believe can never be experienced again. It fosters a belief that life's most meaningful chapters have already been written, leaving only epilogue and conclusion. But what if this perspective is fundamentally flawed? What if life isn't a single peaked experience with a golden era followed by inevitable decline? What if instead, each phase offers its unique gifts, challenges, and opportunities for meaning, different from what came before, but no less valuable? The most tragic consequence of living too much in the past isn't just missing present moments. It's surrendering your agency to shape what's still to come. When you believe your best days are behind you, you stop actively creating the conditions for joy, growth, and meaning in your current life. If you sometimes get caught dwelling on the past, type 6 in the comments as your commitment to more fully engage with your life as it is now. Releasing the grip of the past doesn't mean forgetting precious memories or dismissing the significance of earlier chapters. It means developing a more balanced relationship with your history, one that allows you to honor what was without sacrificing what is and what might still be. Imagine approaching each day with genuine curiosity about what it might hold, rather than assuming it can't possibly compare to days gone by. Picture yourself fully present in conversations, truly listening rather than waiting to share how things were in your time. Consider what might open up if you approached new experiences without immediately comparing them to their historical counterparts. The past has shaped you, certainly. It has contributed to the person you are today, but it doesn't define the entirety of who you are or what's possible for you. Your story continues to unfold with each passing day, offering fresh opportunities for meaning, connection, and joy, if you're present enough to recognize them. Life moves in cycles, each bringing its unique lessons and blessings. The experiences of your younger years had their time and purpose, leaving an indelible mark on who you've become. But they don't contain all of who you are or what you might yet experience. By choosing to live more fully in the present, you open yourself to discovering new dimensions of life that can only be appreciated through the lens of all you've lived thus far. Some joys can only be recognized by those who have accumulated decades of experience, but only if they're willing to be truly present to receive them. Tip number 7. Find balance in your physical pleasures. Let's talk about something that many videos like this carefully avoid: your relationship with physical pleasure, specifically masturbation. While this might seem like an unusual topic in a discussion about aging well, it actually touches on important aspects of balance, self-care, and healthy living that deserve honest consideration. Occasional self-pleasure can be a normal, healthy part of human sexuality at any age. It can provide stress relief, contribute to better sleep, and help maintain sexual function. Research even suggests it may have health benefits, including reduced stress and improved immune function. However, when this natural activity becomes a daily habit or an automatic response to boredom, loneliness, or emotional discomfort, it's worth examining what's really happening beneath the surface. Ask yourself, what's driving this pattern? Is it simply physical need, or has it become a way to temporarily escape from uncomfortable emotions? Does it leave you feeling refreshed and relaxed, or empty and disconnected? Is it one aspect of a balanced life, or has it become a substitute for genuine connection and engagement? For many people, especially as they age and perhaps face changing relationships or periods of isolation, frequent masturbation can become less about pleasure and more about filling emotional voids. It provides momentary relief but doesn't address the deeper needs for meaning, connection, and purpose that we all share. The concern isn't about the activity itself, but about balance. Any pleasure that becomes compulsive rather than chosen, automatic rather than intentional, can begin to drain rather than enhance your life experience. This applies not just to sexual pleasure, but to any quick comfort, whether food, alcohol, television, or endless scrolling on devices. If you recognize yourself in this pattern, know that what you're likely seeking isn't really physical release, but something deeper, perhaps comfort in loneliness, distraction from difficult emotions, or a brief escape from stressors. These are completely valid human needs. They simply deserve more effective, lasting solutions. Type 7 in the comments if you believe finding equilibrium in all aspects of life becomes increasingly important as we age. Consider expanding your repertoire of pleasure and comfort. The human experience offers countless sources of joy, connection, and fulfillment that engage different aspects of who you are. Physical exercise releases many of the same feel-good chemicals, but with added health benefits. Creative pursuits can provide flow states that are deeply absorbing and satisfying. Meaningful conversations, even brief exchanges with neighbors or shopkeepers, can fulfill our innate need for connection. The key isn't deprivation or rigid rules, it's intentionality and balance. It's ensuring that you're choosing your behaviors rather than being driven by them, that you're addressing your true needs rather than temporarily masking them. By developing a more mindful relationship with physical pleasure, you make space for a broader, richer experience of life's joys. You become more present, more aware of subtle sources of satisfaction that might otherwise go unnoticed. You develop greater capacity to sit with occasional discomfort rather than immediately seeking escape. This balanced approach doesn't diminish pleasure, it expands it. When physical indulgence becomes just one note in a rich symphony of experiences rather than a repetitive melody played in isolation, life takes on greater depth and meaning. As we close this discussion, I invite you to reflect on what has resonated most strongly with you today. Which of these 7 insights struck a chord? What small shift might you make tomorrow that could begin to transform your experience? Remember, these aren't just abstract ideas. They're invitations to live more fully, more authentically, and more joyfully in this precious chapter of your life. Each suggestion represents a potential doorway to greater freedom, deeper peace, and more genuine connection. If you found value in this conversation, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content designed to support you in creating your most meaningful life at any age. Thank you for your presence, for your willingness to engage with these sometimes challenging truths. The fact that you're here, still curious, still open to growth, speaks volumes about the person you are and the life you're creating. Until next time, remember that each day offers a fresh opportunity to choose how you'll live, who you'll welcome into your life, and what you'll prioritize. These choices, more than your circumstances, determine the quality of your experience, today and in all the days to come.